I call Mark Mitchell.
Mr Speaker, it's my pleasure to take a call on this, the official information Parliamentary Under-Secretaries. I'd just like to lay out, I'd like to acknowledge the committee chair and also the other members of the Government Admin Committee that worked on this bill. National voted against the bill. We did vote against the bill at the first reading because there's an important distinction. We felt like there's an important distinction that is drawn between the executive, which is subject to the Official Information Act, and Parliament, which is not. And I'll come back to that point a little later in my speech. The work of the Parliamentary Under-Secretaries can be sought through the Minister they are responsible for. Having gone through the Select Committee process, however, which was thorough, and after hearing the submissions, it was apparent to us that the public would like more accountability and transparency around the Parliamentary Under-Secretaries in Government, and we felt that this bill did achieve that. So, therefore, we decided that we would support the bill. I did want to address one comment that was made by the chair of the committee, and it was directed to David Seymour. And I know that in the first reading, I referred to this bill as the Pick on David Seymour bill, because I felt that actually it was politically motivated and it was directed at a member of Parliament and the leader of the ACT Party, David Seymour. But tonight, we've been reminded, or we've been told by the opposition, that this isn't the case, that it's not about David, it's about Under-Secretaries. There's two things I want to raise that would contradict that. The first one is the statement made by the member sponsoring the bill, and I want to acknowledge the member tonight who is in the House. In his first statement, this is what he said. He said, "My bill is a direct challenge to the anomaly in how Parliamentary Under-Secretaries are treated with respect of the OIA. Parliamentary Under-Secretaries exercise delegated authority from ministers in specific policy areas, but they are not subject to the Official Information Act 1982. There is no reason for this to be the case. Under-Secretaries are undertaking work as part of the executive branch of government, and they must be accountable to the public in the same manner as the rest of the executive." Now, that statement I accept and I support 100%. And if it had been left there, then I could also accept the argument that this wasn't directed at David Seymour, or at maybe even a policy that he has been the sponsor of, and that is our charter schools. And that's a policy that the opposition and Labor are against. But he went on to say this, and I know that Mr Cunliffe is speaking after me, and maybe he can address this for us. He went on to say this. After the election, ACT Party leader David Seymour was appointed an Under-Secretary to the Minister of Education with responsibilities for charter schools. So now he's introduced David Seymour into the debate. Now he's introduced the charter schools policy into the debate, which would be in direct contradiction to what the chair just got up and said, that it wasn't about David Seymour. He goes on to say he is also the Under-Secretary to the Minister of Regulatory Reform. Charter schools were excluded from the OIA when they were set up. An arrangement of the Chief Ombudsman said it may be unconstitutional. That's fair enough, raising that point, I accept that. It is therefore vitally important that those with oversight responsibility for these schools, such as Mr Seymour, are subject to proper democratic accountability. National and David Seymour may claim that they have already accounted for this with respect to Mr Seymour's delegated responsibilities. If so, why did they have such a problem supporting the bill that seeks to correct the anomaly in legislation? The point that I would make is that I still feel, although we have decided to support the bill, I still feel strongly that actually this was a bill that was directed at David Seymour, and it was directed at the charter schools policy, which we've seen has actually been has actually been very successful. So I would invite the Speaker that's following me for the Labor Party, Mr Cunliffe, to make, well, that's true. That's very true, David. But you did seem very excited and very interested in this debate. So maybe you will get the chance. I would have liked to have heard you on the TPP. That would have been interesting, your position on the TPP, because we thought you might have been a free trader. Maybe I got that wrong.
However, we're not talking about that just now.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Speaker. The other thing that I wanted to mention about this bill is I want to come back to the first point that I made around the distinction between the executive and Parliament, because most of us in this House pride ourselves on the fact that actually our primary role, or one of our primary roles, is serving the communities that elect us to represent them. And a big part of that is all of us will sit down and we'll have a constituent clinic where a constituent is able to come into our office and often share personal information, and we're often the last port of call in terms of being able to help them and remove some of the stress that they're under. So it's really important actually that they're able to come in with confidence and know that that sensitive and personal information that they share with us is protected and it's going to be treated confidentially. And so one thing that I did speak about in my first speech, and I did use a military term, and certainly our NZDF people would know what I was talking about when I said mission creep. And effectively what that means is that you start off with one idea and then gradually it starts to change and transform. And I think the danger around this bill to a certain extent is that now that it's before the House, and I think the Leader of the ACT Party alluded to it, is that where do we start and where do we stop? And maybe we could see some SOPs come in asking or at least challenging as to why the leaders, say, of opposition parties aren't also subjected to the same transparency and the level of transparency. Now, government should be, without a doubt, we accept that. And I'm proud of the fact that this government is extremely transparent and continues to move and look for ways to be even more transparent. There's one thing that is very true in politics, is that the thing that'll get you is the attempt to make a cover-up on something. The minute that happens, and you know, I hear New Zealand First laughing. I don't know whether I've got experience of that, but they seem to be supporting the comment. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy, very pleased to have been able to take a call on this, the second reading, and just highlight the fact that we in the National Party will be supporting the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I call Dennis